Are fodder beets really worthwhile for the homestead? So as many of you know, we have been experimenting a little bit with Mangel Beets with not great success, and that's partially human error as well as environment and everything else. But the question is it worth it now at this point to keep trying to grow these fodder beets? I will say they've had a tough life this year. We had best of intentions. We got them into the ground. We got them going. Then they got neglected, overran by weeds. Then we forgot to take them out. Then they got frozen. And now they're in a pile under a whole pile of snow, which I'm going to show you right now. This kind of little bit shadowed mound here is one of our little patches of Mangel Beets. Now, last week I did pull these out of the ground when we got a brief unthaw, just enough for me to do it. And that's where they stayed. So as I say, very neglected. They actually have a layer of ice on them from the freezing rain that we had. But still, when you look at the size of what you get, it is a substantial food crop, especially for small livestock such as rabbits. One of our dilemmas on the homestead is we grow sugar beets, Detroit red beets, as well as Mangel beets. And all of these beets cross. So from a seed saving perspective, that makes it tricky. That means you're dealing basically with one type of beet going to seed each year, which means your seeds start to age. That means you maybe don't get such good germination when it does come time to plant them all the time. So I'm going to take these over and I'm going to show you a little bit of a variety of what we grew in our crop this year. I'm going to talk a little bit about how selection is something that's kind of influencing our decision. So as I was saying, one of the things that we are having a real debate about is how we can improve these Mangel beets to be of a uniform type quality that guarantees production every time, when we would only be technically selecting and saving seeds every 3 years. So here strikes the dilemma. Same patch, same separation distance in planting. One's huge and one's dinky. There is no rhyme nor reason. And as of right now, we've only been using store-bought seeds as we experiment because we haven't done well enough with the harvesting to actually save some of the roots to replant the next year to get our own seed. From the perspective of an animal fodder, there's nothing wrong with those all being different sizes. Yes, they still take up real estate in the garden, but either way, it is food. And technically, they could be human food as well. We haven't actually eaten one of these or even tried it really. We did eat some greens off of one. Maybe that's part of the experiment next year, growing them again and trying them for human food as well. But one of the things that we notice is like the Detroit red beets, for example. Very uniform. We can guarantee a decent crop every year, pretty much, with a few exceptions. And that's due to the fact that for such a long time, they have been selected for qualities that humans want in their food. Our other dilemma is the sugar beets are something that can't be a readily plentiful fodder for animals. Great for us, but you're a little bit restricted on the fodder feeding to animals because of the sugar content. So as you can see, we have quite a dilemma here on just what we should do. There are options with these beets to stick with put and take, which is basically what we've been doing. And by put and take, we mean basically we buy the seeds, we're in the system, and if the seeds aren't available, we're no longer going to be growing them. But that is an option if we feel that it is a valuable enough food crop. But it has a dilemma that basically if you can't get it, you can't get it. And also, as you've seen in our crop here, I wouldn't say that there's much seed selection going on the other end there either.
So one thing about these beets is we tend to use them primarily as a fodder or a winter food for rabbits. And as Stephanie said, whether it's Detroit red beets or these Mangels, they eat them quite well, especially in the winter months. Now, historically, these Mangels were used for much larger livestock, including cattle. But you can imagine the quantity you would need to produce and grow to feed cattle or to supplement cattle's diet over the winter far, far exceeds what you would need to grow to supplement or even sort of primarily support the winter diet of a rabbit herd. So we're looking at this from the perspective of what's actually feasible on a homestead scale. And as Stephanie was talking as well, the seed issue is kind of a big one, because yes, we could totally buy the seeds year after year after year for these. But if for some reason we can't get them, and we've based our whole sort of rabbit feeding regime on the availability of this, then you can sort of inherently see the issue. So we're kind of at this fork in the road of trying to make a decision. Do we continue to grow something that's single purpose, or do we switch and try to grow things that can feed humans but also be used as a fodder for the animals?
But just imagine if you could get them all to grow like that. Here's a big treat. Oops, sorry.
But it definitely meets with approval. Well, as you can tell, we're back inside because it's a little bit cold. So
I know, we've become very soft with how mild our winter has been this year.
But we figured we'd do kind of an ending to this video. So you've kind of seen the rabbits eat the beets really well, and beets of some description can definitely help fill the gaps in feeding the rabbits.
And the other thing I would say about the beets as far as fodder, I picked greens off of all of our beets. Didn't matter what variety throughout the year to feed the rabbits. Not in a large number because I obviously didn't want to kill the plant. But you did get them two-tiered kind of food source product. And I think that is valuable. Either way.
Anytime you can get more than one end product out of something, it's probably going to be more advantageous on a small scale.
So in the spirit of learning some of these more non-pellet related products for our bunnies, we managed to pick up a book that was highly recommended by our subscribers. Book neither of us have actually ever read, so we're super excited. As you can see, as Chris was holding it up, it's not even cracked yet. We just took this out of the Amazon box. So we're going to have a good read on that, and hopefully that'll give us some info moving forward on some plans for our rabbit garden.
Yeah, help a little bit.
So that's some content that I think will be coming up this spring as we plan a space allotment, and potentially, as much as we always grow stuff, I think that feeds us, but also feeds the livestock. I think we're going to kind of do something that's a little bit more...
Or grow some things that might be specific for livestock, but also grow some things in higher quantities.
That will feed us, but also
feed the livestock. So
stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to mention we picked up this book because we're super excited about it. And
since beets will be one of the food items on the list, we will eventually figure out what works for us as far as the beet dilemma, and eventually let you know what we decided.
The other thing I would suggest too is if anybody actually grows the, what's the beet that you said is the middle of the two of them?
The cylindrical beet.
Cylindrical beet. If anybody in our viewing base here does grow that one and has some review on it or information, maybe they could leave it in the comments or send us an email.
I think mostly size in compared to the Detroit Reds, because we know if the longer you leave the Detroit Reds, the bigger they get. The bigger they get, the more food you get for the rabbits. But if the cylindrical beet gets larger quicker,
yeah, that would just help us with solving
that could be a middle ground.
Exactly, solving that dilemma of keeping 3 for going to seed is tough. So,
and when you want specific qualities in the plants and animals that you grow, you can see the dilemma when you're trying to decide what works best for you.
Exactly.
So hopefully you at least found this entertaining, if not informative, and we will talk to everyone later.